Okay, welcome back. This is the second video in my workshop series, Stop the Yo-Yo, 4 Simple Steps to Create a Healthy Lifestyle That Lasts. So before we jump into step number 2, let's do a quick overview of the steps that we're covering. So in the last video, we covered the first and really probably the most important step: change the way you think about you and your body. So if you haven't watched that first video, I highly recommend you jump back, because this is where you want to start. Step number 2 we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about willpower. We're going to understand how willpower works, and we're going to use that information to create lasting habits. Step number 3 is to address emotional eating and get a plan in place. So we're going to cover that in the third video, and then I promised you in the first video that I have an emotional eating game plan that I'll give you if you keep watching these videos to the end, and I will tell you how to get that. And step number 4 is finding the support that you need to make it all happen. And we're going to talk about where to find that, even if it's not right around you immediately. Okay, so let's jump into step number 2 then. We're going to talk about willpower. Now, I told you in video 1 that I am a total nerd, and I have loved researching and reading about willpower, about the science behind it, about the studies that they've done on how it works, and how we can change the amount of willpower that we have, essentially. So I'm going to tell you all about that nerdy science right now. So first of all, what is willpower? And this is really cool, because basically what science has shown is that it's not your fault, which I kind of like to hear, right? We feel weak or not as strong as whoever it is you see on social media or around you that is able to continue making healthy choices. So I'm just weak because I pulled out the bag of M&Ms in the afternoon, right? That's not true. It's not your fault. It's an actual science that your willpower, your brain is like a muscle, and it gets fatigued. That's what happens when you're reaching for that bag of M&Ms. Your willpower is fatigued, just like a muscle gets tired. You can't hold even something light all day, right? Your muscle will get tired, and your willpower is the exact same way. And that's fascinating science, and especially because they've used that information, that science, those studies, to tell us what to do about it, right? So here's what we're going to do with that information. This step has 2 action items. The first one is to put as many decisions as you can on autopilot. Now, here's what science says about willpower. It's like a muscle, and it gets tired, and every single decision, big or small, that we make all day long depletes and fatigues that willpower. So we get up and we decide what to wear, and we decide what to eat, and then we decide what time to leave and which direction to drive to work, and whether or not to have road rage on the way, and whether or not to make a call or a text when we get there. And we make all of these tiny, tiny decisions all day long that fatigue that willpower. So this is what you can do. Put as many decisions as you can during the day on autopilot. And let me tell you a couple of ways that this has really worked for me. So these are things that you probably have heard from the fitness health world that are true. Maybe we just didn't know why we were doing them, but that actually work. So one of the things that you may have heard is to put meals on repeat or on autopilot. So this works in a couple of different ways. I like to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or breakfast, lunch, and snacks at least, on repeat for a while. So on a weekend, I'll make a big batch of steel cut oatmeal, and I will have that every morning for breakfast for a week. I'll fill my fridge with these salads in a jar are fantastic, especially like for taking to work or whatever, because they stay good for a full week in your fridge like this. So I'll make a full week's worth of salads in a jar that I'll have for lunch. And a big batch of these are energy bites. And all of these recipes, by the way, are on the Feel Great in 8 blog. But I make a big batch of these energy bites, and that is my snack every afternoon. And I don't think about what I'm going to have for breakfast, lunch, or snack that week because those decisions have already been made. And those decisions don't have to deplete my willpower anymore. This is also why meal planning ahead is effective. Even if you don't eat the same things on repeat, if you decide what you're going to eat in ahead of time for every meal, and then you don't make those decisions anymore, that can help reduce the decisions that deplete your willpower during the day. The second one you've probably heard too, it's putting exercise on your schedule and then prepping for it ahead of time. So what I do, this for me means exercising first thing in the morning. And it means that at night before I go to bed, I set out all of my workout clothes, my shoes, my socks, everything that I need on the floor right by my bed. They're there. The decision has been made. I even have a specific alarm tone that goes off on mornings when I am exercising. Kind of clicks into my brain that that's an autopilot decision. I get up and I put on my workout clothes and I exercise first thing in the morning. If you're not a first thing in the morning exerciser, that just means that you've got your bag packed and it's on your calendar, and maybe even you set an alarm in your phone that reminds you you're working out right now. And the longer you do that, the more of an autopilot that will become. But any decision that you can put on autopilot will help in keeping that willpower going all day. Even setting out the clothes that you're going to wear, the regular clothes that you're going to wear the day before. Anything that you can do that will help you avoid making decisions during the day is going to help that willpower last. Okay, but here's your second action item. Putting those things on autopilot is definitely going to help. But your willpower at times is going to get tired and fatigued. So we're going to talk about recognizing that and what to do to combat that moment where your willpower is gone, right? This happens to me almost every afternoon around 3:00. My willpower is gone. I'm tired and I want to grab a bag of M&Ms or chocolate chips, right? And I'm sure you can relate to that. That moment where maybe if you haven't even recognized it up to this point, but it's there, right? My willpower is gone. That's all I have. But it's okay because now we know what to do. Here is what has worked for me. Well, actually, here's what science says works. The things that affect our willpower the most in studies are sleep and nutrition, food. So our willpower is the most fatigued and depleted when we are tired and hungry, which we can totally understand and relate to, right? So this is what I do when I recognize that moment of willpower fatigue. And this is even on autopilot for me, and eventually it will be for you too. So this is my bowl that I grab when it's just a small little white bowl that I grab, that I reach for when I'm recognizing that willpower fatigue. And I put in a 1/4 cup of mixed nuts and a couple of squares of dark chocolate in my bowl. I think this works really well in general, not just for me, if you need something to try, because the nuts have protein and healthy fat. And the dark chocolate has lots of healthy, great ingredients, but also a little bit of sugar in your system, a healthy sweet in your system. So I grab my bowl of nuts, and then this 20 minutes is a little bit exaggerated depending on the day because I have four children, but if at all possible, I go up to my room and I close my door and I close my eyes for, it's usually more like 10 minutes, let's be honest, but just a moment to rest. And my kids know this is part of our routine. Mom needs a quiet minute. My oldest is old enough to watch the littles. If he's not home, I'll pull the little ones in by me with a coloring book and some crayons and quiet. And they've gotten used to that. Mom needs to close her eyes for just a minute. And between those two things and those 10 minutes, I can refresh my willpower for the rest of the day. I can avoid the bag of M&Ms and chocolate chips, right? Or even the drive-through decision for dinner, because I've refreshed that willpower with some healthy food and a little bit of rest. So this might not be the exact thing that works for you, but I would try a few things out. Put on autopilot your reaction or your response to that willpower fatigue. Put some healthy food in your body, and take a minute, whether it's laying down or it's just sitting back in your chair and closing your eyes for a few minutes, or closing the bathroom door for just a minute. I know how that goes too, with little kids. But this is really another step that you can put on autopilot, is how you respond to that willpower fatigue. Okay, so like we did in the first video, this is the moment where I want you to check in with yourself. And if we were together, you could tell me. You can, if you want, jump on Facebook, email me. I would love to hear about it. So tell me, what's the first action that you're going to take? What's something that you're going to put on willpower or on autopilot? Or what do you think might work for you when your willpower is feeling fatigued? Make a decision right now of the first thing that you're going to do to help improve your willpower. Okay, so that's the second step. Understanding how willpower works and how to use that information to create lasting habits. I hope you'll stick around and check out the next video. So I will see you then.